What's good with y'all, man? There's controversy in the building. You are now listening to YMDR Podcast. What's good with y'all, man? So we back at it again. Want to come in and just tell y'all some stuff about what's going down. So this is the introduction of the YMDR Podcast. I am your host of the YMDR Podcast, Devani Colleague Menendez. You feel me? I'm in the building. I go by Controversy as an artist name, and this is the YMDR Podcast. One of the things I want to get into is this is the introduction. So this is episode 1, but this is really like a getting to know you type of vibe of what this is. It's not like the actual podcast episodes, because those will actually start literally like, you know, when the time comes after this episode, pretty much. You know, this is an introduction one. So let's get into it. You know, what I feel like I can talk to y'all about on this podcast right now, truly is about how I even got started with the introduction and the things of YMDR, you know, and how this even got to its place. So, you know, to kind of just take no steps further ado, I will get to y'all on how we gonna talk about this. So, one of the things that I'll say, you know, on this thing is the reason why, you know, I even got to this sort of point of wanting to do this sort of thing was because, yeah, man, you know, I understood that everybody was getting into podcasting, and let's just say I wasn't trying to get into podcasting because of everybody else. I had my own sort of intention to kind of get into it, and it wasn't a malicious intention. It was an intention to kind of give some backdrop, some help to just the society as a whole, and just the people as a whole in the city of Naptown, because I just decided, like, well, you know, what if I was to just give Naptown something to really look forward to, you know, because let's just say, you know, I know everybody's business is out here and everybody, you know, uses their business for different reasons, but let me just use my business for a different reason, you know. So that's when I kind of just put together this whole thing of wanting to do a podcast. I made the logo because I already had, you know, the equipment for that, so I just was able to still do it that way. And then after a while, I just had to kind of put together like chords and all these other different things to kind of make it kind of linger on into what it was, and what it started to become, you know, because I just invested and remembered to keep investing, and, you know, kind of just, you know, keeping God as the foreground of all of it, and not just steering backwards into anything to kind of blind my sight of what I wanted to do, you know. And that's what I think I can encourage people to know about this podcast is, you know, you are going to be introduced to some very encouraging people, because, you know, we know how to at least, you know, give you some things in the picture that can just literally kind of give you just a little shine in the midst of this, because I know out here in the digital age, you know, people want to hear different things or do different things. So this is one of the form or outlets that YMDR does, its way of, you know, reaching out to the people in the city, through independent media and independent music. You know, this will be that sort of idea for that. You know, what you don't even know is that it will literally be able to, you know, kind of put some ads out there for artists, you know, put some ads out there for local businesses. If you got audio ads, I will add audio ads into this whole ad itself, and it will literally, you know, be a local ad, but it'll be put on, you know, this podcast as almost like just ad advertisement for your sort of doing, as the topics and things kind of go into the whole idea. But on this podcast itself, we will talk about conversations. So we'll have conversations about things that are relatable to the world out here in itself. They come from a Christian perspective, and also that we do not shine or misshine people who are secular, so it will come from that perspective as well. So conversations that are very thought provoking. I don't worry about thought provoking conversations because those conversations are very much needed, in the society that we live in. And I know that when you're not able to have a platform to do anything on that, it's very stressful and it can be very harmful to the artist who's trying to do it. So YMDR is really just thinking like, hey, let's do this for the people. Let's make a movement out of it, and let's involve the Christians, but let's do it where the Christians are not in the church and they're in a different setting and they're appreciating their talents and abilities, and let's put them into that so that they can kind of use this sort of opportunity to actually empower those around them, whether they be, Christian or not. So that's what I feel this platform and this whole thing, the YMDR podcast, might try to do. So the next thing we will actually be going over as well, as I already told y'all, local advertisements. Local advertisements, one of the big things, but then another one that'll be in there is the music reviews. Y'all see the music reviews always on my page, on the YMDR page, but they will be on this podcast as well, so that they can kind of flourish and have a little more of a up standard, if I can say that. Like it would just be something to that degree kind of on the podcast, instead of it being on Facebook Live, because being realistic, this ain't to shun Facebook at all, but this is to say that Facebook sometimes will not allow you to do your thing the way you want to do your thing. So, you got to sometimes make your own stuff. Who knows? I probably can put this mug on a streaming thing, and then you can download the podcast. And that, you feel me? Like, you probably might like that more than just, like, being on Facebook. Who knows? I'm not saying this to shun Facebook, y'all. I'm just kidding around. But I really mean that to just say, like, don't silence the voices of people, you feel me? Because everybody who is voicing the things that they voice, shouldn't be silenced, because there's a reason for why they're even saying the things that they say. It don't matter whether they somebody who's given some informity. It don't matter if they a freedom rider. It don't matter if they've from the understanding of a racism group, the Black Panthers, like you should not silence the people, because they'll find a way to not be silenced. I'm just saying, and that's not to be, hurtful, but that's just giving some truth to it. But yeah, we will also have prayer requests. The reason why I think this is put in is not by force. Prayer request for me, is not really put in so that people can be forced to subject to the things that are of God. Like, this is more or less a free realm of just saying, if you want a prayer request, you can get one on the podcast, literally, because we have ways of being able to kind of contact the people and actually, talking to them about whatever issue they may have, and they can call a number and it can actually direct them to, it'll direct them to my number, that's on the YMDR page. If it's not on the YMDR page, it'll just direct them to a number that's on there. You feel me? And so, but we have ways to do that can just give prayer requests to people who may need them on Facebook. Sometimes, people need prayer requests, man. Like, we live in a cold world. There's some crazy things out here that goes on. And sometimes it's good to know that there's people out here who actually care about you in that way and are not doing it for some, fake Christian ideology type of vibe. So it's good that we just have the prayer request in there as just something to kind of, help kind of in the midst of it if people want these sort of prayer requests or need them. They're not forced on anybody whatsoever. You feel me? We are independent media is not about that, so that's something you can always see in good lights with. So we will also have local music plays. So what that is almost like radio sort of thing. So like, but it won't be like technically all radio E, but it'll kind of be like radio because of what it will be is it'll play all local music. So it'll play local music of artists of any genre. You feel me? Like this is of any genre. It's not just of one genre. It's of any genre, and that brings a lot of unity to Naptown because it's like, you know, in Indianapolis, we listen to a lot of genres, but you know, from different things that some people may have about some people's music, you know, most people are not really, you know, they're not really into the whole unifying people on, you know, music tips. You know, like that's not really something that, you know, is that I've seen a lot in Naptown. It's not really something that happens. So this platform kind of gives you that idea to be able to kind of unify, you know, with different genres so that it's not just a gospel thing and it's not just a heavy metal rock thing. It's not just a, you know, like it's almost like just bringing the genres together, you know, trying to understand all of these genres on one platform so that people can kind of just be willing to hear that music. It won't all. One of the things about that is it will be cool. You know, you'll have it on the podcast itself, but it will not. Let's say that it. Let's say you want to put it on there and it lasts for a particular timing. We do have to map out the timing so that we know when to have songs that'll play and songs that won't play. So it won't be a continuous thing because that's not all that this podcast is for. It is for that, but it's not also for just all constant plays like if you were listening to the radio. Because let's be real, like when you play music all the time on the radio, you know, don't people get bored listening to that music all the time on the radio? And that's not to diss the radio, but that's just to say, like, continuation of that and no variations of anything else can get very tiring to some people. It depends on what it is, you know, and what they're doing it for. But the reality that I'm hoping is that yes, that's what, you know, it'll be. The plays on here will be mapped out if you want to be putting them on the podcast. And if you just want to get your little, you know, your music in there, your little shine, whether you be Christian or secular, we got you. Highlights on creatives and local businesses. So what that will do, people don't know of, is that will basically give a podcast episode to filmmakers who are local in the city, local businesses who are in the city. You know, this podcast will actually do that for that sort of, you know, era. It'll be able to kind of give that sort of whole dedication to like one episode if they need a whole episode dedicated to just their whole sort of thing. And I'll give them questions, I'll talk to them about things and just see how that all goes, give them some scenarios, or even just, you know, they want to just talk about things personally. You know, that one thing about my platform is I don't even think of this like you got to talk about business. You could be, you know, business orientated and personal. You feel me? Because we respect you as a person as well, not just a business, you know, because you're not just a business, you know, on most of the world's ideology or thought patterns, they literally think like, oh, this person, he runs a business, but actually he's a business. And they don't realize he's a person who has a business. So, but that's almost what it's trying to give the vibe of, is just kind of get people out there and give some highlight episodes to kind of people out there who may need it. And it'll be a very awesome thing because it'll help with a lot of that scenario. It can be YouTuber, you could be a comedian, you could be a local artist, you could be you could be any sort of thing that is creative, whether you are artist of any kind. You could be a poet, you could be a person who does music videos. You know, like it really does not matter about the artistry as long as it is artistry that is for the community, for people around here. It will, you know, it could be totally shined on the podcast. So the next thing that this podcast will have as well is the topics. YMDR topics. That's what I had on Facebook, but we will have them on the podcast as well. So they'll be conjoined in with the conversations that might be had on here sometimes, and with other things that are going on in particular. So, but yeah, that the topics will be, like I said, that on this platform, I want people to be very comfortable with hearing things that are very different. I want them to be comfortable with hearing perspectives that are not always marginalized, are not always controlled by mainstream media. I want them to be very comfortable to be able to hear that sort of stuff, because in very, a very knowledgeable thing sometimes can be, brought to those people, who hear that, and the problem with most of the time when you get it from on mainstream media people is they will let you in on secrets and think that these are secrets that are actually helpful, but sometimes they're not, because I done ran into some mainstream people who will literally talk badly about those who are less fortunate, who don't have no money, and they'll try to say, oh, you know what? Those people, they're losers, or they won't get you to having any money, or they won't get you this, they won't get you that. And I'm the type of person on the end like, well, hold up, you don't even know who you're talking to. Like, I could be somebody, I could be somebody who could help the society around me before you just go around and say, oh, well, we just a bunch of bums and we don't know what we doing because we poor. Like, you gotta watch out for that. Don't be acting like that, for real. I don't know what little rich bug done got into you, but don't be acting like that. You feel me? That ain't cool. But yeah, like I just, I feel like I hope that, the YMDR topics can kind of just give you some ideas about things, because these are very rich topics that can truly just give people some very new and authentic thought patterns, to things. And if you're somebody who like difference, and even if you don't like difference, you can still hear these things on this podcast, because it is truly a place where it is not ashamed of people who choose to be different, whether that be people who choose to be different for different reasons or whatever. I think what we have to realize too, though, about our differences is, I'll give you guys this scenario. Let's say, you live in a world where people are showing you all these sort of ideologies of difference, like science and, music, or, homosexuality, or black power, or all these different things. Like, let's say that all these different things that are out here, are used in such a way that, they block a lot of us from our differences. We can't see our differences for what they actually are. And this isn't a diss to anybody who chooses those lifestyles, you feel me? Like, this ain't to say, I ain't even somebody who understand the essence of the black skin thing as well, because, I dang sure might scream some black power if you try to run me over. You feel me? Like, I might really do that. It might. It depends. But, I just think people will, on this sort of thing with that, people will be able to kind of get a good grasping of just some topics that will give them some very just reasonable, understandable stuff, so that they're not just hearing things from people that are always, what's the word for it? Always hearing things that just aren't good for the ears. You feel me? Just bad stuff, constantly bad, thinking that that's what people constantly have to be. The topics will literally just give you ideas on that, and sort of like business orientated, so there'll be things like that, but they'll kind of run in the category of just different stuff that you may need to just learn about, or get an idea about. So yeah, y'all, like, ultimately, I am glad and thankful that you guys checked out the podcast episode for today. This is just, this is just the beginning, y'all. This took a whole long time. If you ever want to, hit me up about how long this took or even if you want a whole podcast breakdown, you can even let me know on that, and I will give you a podcast breakdown about how long this took, and you can actually see it, unless you ain't somebody who just don't want to see it, from just the stuff that's on the YMDR page, and you just want to dedicate a whole podcast. If you want to, you can totally let me know, and I will totally put that in the box. All right. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I appreciate every last one of y'all in Naptown. If Naptown people want to get involved with YMDR Podcast, they're very welcome to get involved in many different ways. They are welcome to, learning about it. They're very welcome to share it on their pages. You're very welcome to do whatever you may think you want to do, or kind of just get a resource in on what your stuff is with this YMDR podcast. And this can be for anybody else as well in the city of the United States of America, I guess, and who knows? It kind of just depends on where it will go. This is all depending on where it will go, and we'll work from there. So I hope y'all have a wonderful day, man. It's a hot day. I'm in a room, and it's hot than 1,000, but I got a mixer in here, and I'm just, it's hot for me. But I just wanted to tell y'all that, break it down for y'all, give y'all some strategies and understandings of this whole podcast so that y'all know what's up. And so that y'all know that I love y'all, I care for y'all. I thank God that y'all here, and I appreciate y'all for rocking with the podcast episode for today. So I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And every last one of y'all in Naptown, stay impacted. Peace out, my brothers.